about truth in plain sight. So, why do you think humans often struggle to see the truth even when it's right in front of them?
I believe it's to maybe protect whatever beliefs they set for themselves. And sometimes maybe it's to protect their ego. It's hard for themselves to hold themselves accountable. So, I mean, it might come easy to some people, but sometimes it's hard to look at them, to take that look in the mirror and look at what's coming back at them.
Right. And you have blended fantasy with drama. So, how does the fantasy element allow you to explore good versus evil in a way that straight, realistic fiction couldn't?
It allows me to create characters that embody evil, like demons in my story, or creating heroes that are a good representation of what it means to be good. It allows me to be more descriptive and creative.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Page of Pandora, the space where we peel back the layers of the most provocative literature hitting the shelves today. I'm your host and today we are looking into the mirror, literally. We have heard all saying that everyone has a light and a dark side, but what happens when those two sides are forced to inhabit the same space, fighting for control over a single soul? Today we are discussing Two Sides, One Face, Your Life, Two Choices by Jeremy Nickens. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to talk to you. My very first question is, the cover art for this book is incredibly striking, the split face with a chromatic aberration effect. So how much of that visual splits represent the internal tug of a war for your protagonist faces?
I would say 100%. In the beginning, he's faced with decisions he has to make that can determine which direction he will go into his rest of his life. He's pulled in every direction, from the battles against his flesh and his insecurities and childhood wounds, and that can cause self-doubt. So the internal tug of war is a huge theme for the entire story. You'll see it throughout as you read it.
Right, because it's rare to see the cover art that function as a literal map of a character's psyche, right?
Yeah. It gives you a good glimpse of what's actually going on internally.
Yeah. So you also talk about this constant battle within us. So do you think people are aware of the two sides or most people just ignore it?
I'll say that's depending on their upbringing. If they had parents or guardians that were aware of their two sides, then they could pass that knowledge down. But if they didn't, they would be unaware of it. So most of the time, I believe it's just them not knowing, and that it's not them not caring. It's just that they didn't have that exposed to them, like I did, or maybe you did as well.
Right. I think you are right. We often mistake silence for peace and we ignore that internal friction until it's get too loud to handle. And by then the other side has usually taken the wheel without even realizing it.
Yes, it's like whichever side you spend more time with is what's going to be on the surface.
Right. So you talk about truth in plain sight. So why do you think humans often struggle to see the truth even when it's right in front of them?
I believe it's to maybe protect whatever beliefs they set for themselves. And sometimes maybe it's to protect their ego. And for most people, it's hard for themselves to hold themselves accountable. So, it might come easy to some people, but sometimes it's hard to look at them, to take that look in the mirror and look at what's coming back at them and accept that. So I believe it's just all accountability, for the most part.
Right. And you have blended fantasy with drama. So how does the fantasy element allow you to explore good versus evil in a way that straight, realistic fiction couldn't?
It allows me to create characters that embody evil, like demons in my story, or creating heroes that are a good representation of what it means to be good. It allows me to be more descriptive and creative.
Okay, so I want to know more about your author's journey. So what was the initial inspiration for you to writing this book?
I'd say it was more so a therapeutic journey for me. I always had a love of creative writing, and I guess I found myself. So I used to be an EMT for 5 years, and I worked overnight. So overnight, I would need to find things to keep myself up, and I just fell back in love of writing. So as I was writing the story, I was also learning more about the Apocrypha. So it's just another version of the Bible. So I just wanted to know more, and as I was learning, I was writing, and then it just became more so of a creative therapeutic journey for me, and then it turned into a story.
Wow. So I'm curious, while writing this book, did you ever feel like you were confronting your own two sides?
Yes, all the time. Sometimes I felt like I was speaking to myself. Oftentimes, the character would go through certain things. If it had to do with like his emotions or feeling uncertain, I go through those as well. I sometimes feel uncertain with life, or I sometimes have a hard time understanding why I feel emotional, or sometimes trying to figure that out. And in the story, you have characters like Jason that goes through that, but then you also have an angel in there named Uriel, who's a spiritual guide. So oftentimes, when I was writing, often I would notice, okay, I have my father as like my spiritual guide. I can kind of, you know, compare and contrast the two, and I'm like, okay, in my day to day, I have my father as my spiritual guide, but Jason has Uriel, so I could see the relatability in it.
Right, because I agree with you. I think the writing is often act as an exorcism of sort. It sounds like the protagonist became a vessel for other parts of yourself that don't usually get to speak in polite conversation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think people today are moving more towards self-worship, like you mentioned, instead of faith? And why do you think the shift is happening?
What I'm thinking on that one. I think I say yes, it's due to social media. Social media and what we consume and what we allow ourselves to absorb. In society, it's all about keeping up with the Joneses now, instead of being just to yourself. It's not okay to be private anymore. Everybody wants to be seen. Everyone wants to feed their ego and be regarded as high or worshipped. And I think the shift happened when schools and the household stopped pushing religion and Christianity. And once that stopped being like the vocal point, we had more distractions pulling us in each and every direction. So I feel like the shift happened when they were just promoting more so low frequency product.
Okay. So I want to know, if someone reads this book at a low point in their life, so what do you hope they will take away from it?
I would hope they would feel inspired. They would start to see their gifts and start to look at themselves the way God looks at them, and to also trust the process and just enjoy the journey.
Okay. So do you believe one decision can completely change the direction of someone's life?
Yes, I do. I really do. I feel like everything has a cause and an effect. One decision can either help you grow and connect with people, or one decision can help you sabotage yourself. So I really believe it's very important that you think before you make decisions and don't go off of impulse, because a lot of times that can lead to consequences that you can't get out of.
Right. Since you have written this as very first book, so I want to know what was the hardest part about it for you?
I'll say the hardest part was sticking to it. A lot of times you have false thoughts that pop up when you're on the journey, something new, saying, "Oh no, this won't materialize. No, this can't be. You're not no author." Self-doubt, and that was very hard for me, having to work through that and believe in this book, believe in my writing, and believe that it can inspire somebody. So if I believe too. So in the Bible, not to get preachy, but in the Bible, I'm not going to say it word for word, but in the Bible, God talks about giving us gifts, and if we don't use them, He will pass them to someone else. So I noticed that I had a gift of writing, and it was just going to waste. Just me thinking and jotting down ideas instead of just creating and believing in it. And once I started to believe in it, everything started to materialize. So I'll say the hardest part was believing in myself, but once I did it, I started to believe in myself even more.
Wow. Also, I was reading your profile and I noticed that you mentioned that your favorite authors were J.K. Rowling and James Patterson. So how their stories shaped your writing?
Just their suspensefulness, their sequence, and like their pacing, and how to keep their audience intrigued the whole time. They really influenced me a lot because growing up, my grandma would have me reading a lot of their books because she was a writer herself. So James Patterson is one of her favorite authors, and she ended up passing him down to me. And then I fell in love with J.K. Rowling because of the Harry Potter Chronicles and her upbringing. She didn't really become an author until her late 30s. So just seeing the journey and just watching how they were able to follow their dreams and believe in themselves played a big influence on me as well.
Okay, that's great. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience regarding your book?
Well, so this is my first part. I have part 2 in the making. It should be done by September. Part 2. So part 1 is about the journey. I just introduced people to the journey of 2 sides, 1 face. Part 2 is about cultivating what one has found to be their gift. So now the main character knows his gifts. Part 2, you would expect to see new characters being developed as well, and them finding and tuning in their gifts and cultivating them as well. So part 2 is in the make. After that, it's a trilogy. So after that, I'll be making part 3 as well.
Okay. So you have finished writing part 2?
Yeah, this almost done. It has to go through the editing works, and just want to make sure I nitpick certain things that might not flow as well, just to overlook it, just to make sure it flows and it's better than my last work.
Okay, that's great. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining me today. It has been a very thoughtful conversation with you. And to everyone listening out there, do check out the book 2 Sides, 1 Face, Your Choice. It's available on Amazon, and you can also visit the author's website to stay connected with his creative journey. And yes, that is the book cover.
And thank you again for having me.
Yes, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
All right.
I also would like to share that in 2017 I took a picture of the solar eclipse, and at this time I was on a spiritual journey, trying to get closer to God, wanting to understand Him more, wanting to figure out what was my purpose here on earth. And my faith was low. I was struggling mentally, just going through spiritual warfare like all of us. But in that moment, as I was taking pictures, the sky started to change. It wasn't really showing a normal solar eclipse. It was showing different figures in the clouds. And at this time, I had asked God to show me a sign, reveal Himself to me, show me that you're real, because I sometimes feel alone. And in that moment, a figure in the sky appeared, and it looked like God to me. And a overwhelming sensation took over my body. I was very shaken up. My body was really hot. I had goosebumps all over my skin. And in that moment, I realized that I was never alone. God was always with me. And that was something that always stuck with me, always stayed with me to this point. Now that I'm here writing a book about the 2 sides in all of us, but also the battle within and the yearning of more connection with our source, I'm here giving God the praise, and that's something that I realized in that moment, that was my purpose, to put the spotlight on God. Make it cool again to talk about God. Make it okay to be vulnerable and to show humility, to want to be better. And I feel this book is also doing that, putting God to the forefront, putting the spotlight on Him. And this was something that was a reminder from me that this was always my purpose, to be a God pusher, to be an ambassador of the Lord, one of the ambassadors. Yeah, thank you.